possible because of good communication. MSME growth, yes, that's again another something. Now, while introducing me, he talked of a secured governance. Secured governance is a doctrine which I had postulated about 8-9 years back. And that postulation is for self-sustained growth of economy. In self-sustained growth, there is a growth, there is a sustained growth, and there's a self-sustained growth. Self-sustained growth is something by which the funds can come from the system based on value valuation, which has to be planned well. Okay. So that, whenever we do something, we always look for funds. The funds will automatically come when the planning is done well, when there is a whole thing is self-sustained. And secured government almost ensures 100% safety of the funds. And because of these, we almost assume that, we both could produce almost 200 million new jobs spread over next 10 years. And many of these things are documented in my over 100 books, which I have documented for various states, various sectors, and few select other countries also. And this has been broadly accepted right from the present CM, present Prime Minister of India, to many people in USA and all. And this is the largest project in the world, which is called 24 Smart Cities being built between Bombay and Nagpur, has the secured governance as the basic principle, and it is going forward. So I will not take now more time. I will directly go to our 4 panelists. Now, 4 panelists starts from Lina Deros. She is from Greece. She is representing Europe. And of course, she is, even though she has not visited India, she is a Sanskrit scholar. She knows Ayurveda well. Even though she is on the financial line, she knows Indian history, not in terms of historical history, Indian philosophy, and she is quite indebted to many of these things, which she will explain. But she is basically from the financial expert. And I would like her also to touch upon one Indo-European corridor, which is coincidentally, I am also involved in the planning of that particular corridor. We are talking almost $1 trillion Indo-European corridor. And the second speaker, of course, is Ganesh. Now, he is a political analyst, and political analyst without affiliation to any particular party or anything like that. He tries to see how the governance can come through proper use of politics, because whatever we say, politicians will rule in any country. Even in a place like China, some politician who is ruling. Even in Korea, somebody is ruling. And democratic country like whatever we are very proud of it. But it needs its own governance. I'm sure he will touch upon the way things can go forward, way things are going forward, and way things will be expected to go forward. Then we have Rakesh. He is an Indian entrepreneur in Slovakia, one of the initiators of this particular program. He's a very highly successful business person, and plus a very good person to imbibe. He has got an Ayurvedic hospital. He has got a wellness clinic, and he has got at the same time non-conventional energy. He does so many things on newer technologies. Even sitting in Slovakia, he is helping a lot of Indian entrepreneurs to grow global. And of course, by choice, our Shankara wanted to talk last, so he will talk last. He is somebody who is from a government sector, but now he is advising various governments on their how they should plan, what they should do, including MSMEs, including some of the governments like Orissa, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, and all, and which he will explain. What I would want is that maybe first 1-2 minutes people can spend and talk about themselves so that we all know. I'm trying to give a little brief about themselves, and then about the core of today's topic, that is governance. And then we have 15 minutes each speaker, and then we conclude with a common discussion. So let me have the pleasure of inviting Madam Lina Deros, and she is also an associate publisher of a very prestigious Brussels-based magazine called New Europe. Very coincidentally, last week, one of my articles got published where I am calling India as a global soft superpower. And she was the one who was insistent that an article like this should go, because she has got the highest expectations from India, and which I would like her to take over and talk. Madam Lina.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. Good afternoon, wherever it is earlier. It's a great honor and pleasure to speak here. I will take some time just to talk about the relation in the broader aspect of the tradition of India and Europe starting from Greece because this is my birthplace. And what I believe that we have in common is many things that go back that have to do with the principles, the education, and the philosophy of the two countries. So bringing closer India to Europe through Greece, I think it is a very good idea. I'm very fond of the work that Dr. Sekhar is doing. I think that the fact that we are bringing up, he is bringing up things that have to do with today's environment and today's technology and today's different tools that we have in developing economy, and then looking into governance through that is a very important aspect. And the fact that he's talking about this secure governance and the smart cities, but also one of the very important points that he's bringing up is that normally and usually you will see that governors and governments are talking about development through indices that have to do with GDP, with the economy, etc. And there is one aspect that very rarely you hear about, which is the happiness of the people into these countries. And governance is not only about bringing development, because development alone brings us to where the world goes today with the climate change, with the different unorthodox ways of building urban societies, the way that at the end breeds diseases because the non-natural way of living ends up in many other symptoms. So I think that it is very important to bring up this idea of governing where looking up at the principles you bring also into today's life, because this is the practical way of looking into principles, to see if you can bring them to your everyday life. Because if you don't bring them to your everyday life, then it doesn't make a difference into societies, into countries, into nations. So these are the main points that I believe that we should bring in from India to Europe. And I think this is to the benefit of both sides. And we believe that this corridor that we are opening through an initial association of friendship between, we call it Indo-Hellenic Association, which means that entities from India and entities from Greece, either on the level of business and also other sectors like education, etc., come together and try to bring these common things into Europe, because this, as I said, is bringing benefits to both sides. So these are the main things that I wanted to say, and then maybe I should touch 2-3 of the sectors that I believe that can benefit a lot the European side. So here in Greece, as you probably know, we have a very big fleet that most of the ship owners worldwide are Greeks. But we do not have, and we have not built, although it was in the past, the facilities around shipping, which means shipyards, means things that have to do with maintenance, etc. So this is one thing that we can do in a partnership with Indian companies. Then India has developed and has given a lot of things into transport lately. You have companies that are doing electric cars, which is something that Europe now is developing. So this is something also that can come into Europe because it helps with zero emissions, and it is something that countries are adapting now, the one after the other. Energy, you have different things that you have developed on the renewable energies, and one of the things that a good friend of Dr. Sekhar does is that they do small regional grids so that you can give energy to different areas without having the cost of a global big grid, and more things that have to do with that. And we should not forget the pharmaceutical side, because India and Greece, I may say, have to give to the world these natural ways of treatment and the natural ways of identifying health, which is very important nowadays. And India has a lot to give to the world by bringing the principles of Ayurveda, or what in the West is called holistic medicine, into the world. So I think that this actually is what I would like to say. Thank you for the opportunity. And I'm here if there is anything that you want to ask. And I'm here
Thank
to
you.
listen.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So nicely and so crisply put. And I'm sure others also will take cue so that we get enough time to even discuss. And you have covered whatever you have to cover in terms of the vastness of the two relationship sectors where we can gain, and your own expertise and your own inroads into them. Now, let me you be there. You have to talk again a little later. And once Mr. Ganesh, as I said, he's a political analyst, political scientist, so to say, and he has himself done immense work in various sectors. And I would like him to talk a little about himself and about his purview for today's conference. Mr. Ganesh.
Yeah. Members of the Indian Chamber of Commerce and Culture, Slovakia, members of the Policy Times, and my esteemed fellow panelists. Thank you for having me here today. A little bit about me. So I have worked as a young professional for the government of Andhra Pradesh with the Department of Municipal Administration and Urban Development, where I contributed in studying existing systems, identifying the gaps, and providing institutional support in policy formulation and implementation in the urban sector. So currently, I'm working at Political Edge, overseeing business, campaign management, and team building. So I'm also a founding team member of Yuvata, a developmental NGO. I'm looking after its education vertical. I'm also an independent public policy researcher with a keen interest in the social sector, technology, public health, governance, and state capacity. So over the next few minutes, I'll be talking about 5 trends that have emerged at the intersection of the state, market, and society, and navigate through how professionals are solving the problems of one of the major stakeholders of governance, which is the politician. So the first trend is the role of state as a primary player in the economy and society has been becoming that of a facilitator. This is an interrelated trend because on one hand, the state is stepping down and allowing market to take over various sectors of the economy and society. However, the state's development agenda has been continuing. State is spending a lot on people who are not covered under the market-led growth process. Now, this is necessary because people need to have the purchasing power. And there is also increasing monetization of state-owned assets to spend on development. The second trend is the idea of multiple players. So there is a plurality of institutions, both government and corporate. So a variety of public-private partnerships have emerged in the market and in the social sector. So the third trend is emergence of think tanks. So there is so these think tanks prepare agenda for the government and also do the advocacy work. The fourth trend is the size of market is increasing, and people can only survive if they have assets and capabilities. So it is the responsibility of the state to enhance the capabilities of people who in turn can get the assets. And the fifth trend is emergence of professionals in domains of legislation and governance, which were traditionally restricted to just political and permanent bureaucracy. So remember, if you recall, I said earlier that politician is an important stakeholder in this process. So being a politician is a 24-hour job. They have to do legislative work, development work, political party work, and also have to attend several social commitments in their constituencies and beyond. However, politicians don't do any work. Is the most heard phrase. So one of the major reasons that we could think of is the grassroots disconnect because of the busy schedules of the politicians. So let me give you an example. The Indian National Congress Party, which is the major political party instrumental in getting India's independence, has been diminishing from several states and is not in power at the center because it has lost the grassroots connect. On the other hand, back in 2003, in the United State of Andhra Pradesh, when the Congress Party was in a bad shape, its leader, late Dr. Y.S. Rajashekar Reddy, went on a walkathon. So he walked for 1,460 kilometers in blistering summer and established grassroots connect with the public. This not only helped his party coming into power by dethroning a strong incumbent government led by the Telugudesam party, but also his connect is such powerful that his son, Mr. Y.S. Jagan, who has established a party on his name, has carried Dr. Rajashekar Reddy's legacy and won mandate in the successor state of Andhra Pradesh. Of course, he too had worked hard to establish the grassroots connect with the public through a walkathon. So let me give you a snapshot of the Indian electoral scenario. In 2019, there are 90 crore, which means about 1 billion eligible voters in India spread across 10 lakh or 1 million polling booths. So there are 543 elected parliamentarians and 4,121 elected members of state assemblies. On an average, there are 17 lakh or 1.7 million voters for every parliamentarian and roughly 2.5 lakh voters for every assembly member. For a perspective, in the United Kingdom, for every parliamentarian, there are just about 72,000 voters. And in South Africa, the number is 66,000. So each assembly constituency and each parliamentary constituency is a unique problem statement because of the diversity of the country. Every election is a sales pitch and gives a chance for the politician to present a vision. So, but politicians face several problems. For instance, a new entrant is confused where to contest from. A seasoned politician faces a double whammy of anti-incumbency and competition from the young leaders of the same party. Today, professionals are helping politicians in legislation, governance, and political campaign management. Our organization, Political Edge, has been solving the problems of politicians and political parties for the past 16 years with data-driven election strategies, campaign management, and communication to continuously reach out to voters and keep the grassroots connect intact. We work at the grassroots level and collect data, give insights to the politicians and political parties. So once upon a time, political decisions used to be taken based on gut feeling, but now we have moved towards data-based decision making. So in the past 16 years, we have worked on around 1 billion data points. So we conceptualize and execute campaigns based on the insights from the data. We train party volunteers on electioneering, social media usage, and communication. Because party workers are the foot soldiers for politicians and political parties, and they can literally make or break the elections. So we believe that our professional support empowers politicians and in turn strengthens the democracy. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ganesh, for an idea of the way the political portion goes, the way the some of the grassroots problems you are trying to solve. And we will come back again on this in terms of governance, in terms of the way this can take a country to the next dimension. Now, let me request Rakesh. He's the one of the formulators for this particular event, so he needs no introduction. So Rakesh, can you just...
Namaskar from Slovakia. Thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar, the panelists, and the speakers, eminent speakers. Thank you once again for joining us. My name is Rakesh Torani, based in Slovakia. Of course, regarding the professional and everything, Dr. Shekhar has already mentioned. Just one small thing would like to add, particularly with Dr. Shekhar also agrees with me, and we had a thinking that the time comes when it is a time to give something back to the society from your side, whatever the small or big, whatever can you do. So that's the reason why we formed this Indian Chambers, to start promoting the things from both the sides, from this part of the Europe to India, as well as from the Indian side towards Europe. Since I'm based in Slovakia, we name it as Indian Chamber of Commerce in Slovakia. But we always say that it's a gateway to Europe in many ways. Not only it's a location-wise, it's exactly down center, but comparatively, it's much more cheaper compared to any other Western countries. And it's an easy access. The things are much more transparent. The things are much more faster. Comparatively, the documentation and the bureaucracy is much less. So this is why we formed the chambers, and this is what we are trying to do to promote the things from both the sides. Thank you so much. Looking forward to hear to all the speakers here. Thank you.
Yeah. Now comes Shankara. who wanted to hear everybody and then give a talk. I'm sure he will have quite many things to say, because he has been in government, he has been with various state governments, and he has been doing a lot of excellent work. Mr. Shankaran.
Thank you, Dr. Shekhar. And first, I would like to thank Indian Chamber of Slovakia for giving me this opportunity, especially Rakeshji, Sumnit, and other dignitaries. Here, basically, I would like to just have a small, brief introduction about myself. I'm a scientist in biotechnology and an innovator and turned entrepreneur. I'm an India Innovation Gold Medal Award by DST, Lockheed Martin, and other people in 2012. In 2015, based on my experience in industry and other things, I was being called as a lateral entry into the government when the government of Andhra Pradesh formed a task force where we have 4 people are there. Nobody is nothing to do with the government. We are all professionals. Myself and Dr. T.S. Rao, who is considered the father of Indian vaccines, and one of the former CEO of Sun Pharma. We have been formed a group. The idea is that we are all having entrepreneurial background as well as industry background, and when we come into the system, how to make a policy which is going to be industrial friendly, and simultaneously how to give more benefits to the society, as Rakeshji has rightly told. Now time has come for us, what best we'll be able to give back to the society with our expertise, experience, and other things. So in this process, we started interacting with various central government agencies, and then what we found is that how to go for economic transformation of the regions. Economic transformation is not only for economic activity that include how to create social infrastructure, how to create industrial infrastructure, how to create environmental infrastructure, and how to increase the economic level of the people. That's what the exercise we are doing from the last 6 to 8 years. The other sector, what we are working is a social enterprise. As you know, Indian MSME, more than 70% are micro entrepreneurs who are in unorganized sector, where they are not having any kind of a legal entities there. They are not in the books of the records. How to support them? By providing the necessary marketing support, financial support, and everything. So fortunately, there is Government of India, Ministry of MSME is supporting a lot. So till now, we are able to support more than 20,000 people. Various artisan based, the old age Indian traditions, and some of the rural tribal areas going for organic farming and how to correct the marketing and other things. That is on the social front. So when it comes to the industrial activity, what we have observed is that there are quite a number of schemes in central government as well as the state government with various ministries and departments. Unless until you go convergence with various schemes, you won't get the capital what you required. So in this process, fortunately, I can say we are successful in getting some of the big projects for Andhra Pradesh and Punjab also, Pharma Punjab, where I was instrumental in going for a big pharma cluster in more than 1,500 acres. The proposal is still pending with the government of India. So in this contest, what we have seen is that the major issue is coming up how to go for ease of doing business. As you know, earlier, if you take maybe 20 years back, 30 years back, especially being a pharma line, we used to have 56 clearances. Now we have to change the governance, we have to change the political system for getting the ease of business. Because what happens is, as an entrepreneur, I'm just sharing my experience. When I started my industry, the first 1 year, I used to spend almost 90 to 95% of my time in the laboratory or in my industry. But from the second year, it's slowly coming down, and by third year, I'd be spending 15-20% because most of the time I used to spend to take care of the administrative activities. Go to the bank, go to that institute, go to this clearance, that clearance, and other things. The centralized schemes are not there. So that's where the change has slowly come. Now, if you can see the single window clearances, majority of this, though it is not 100% foolproof, but the governance, the system slowly has changed. for the betterment of industrial industries as well as for common people also. But still much more has to be changed, and where the intervention from the eminent personality like Dr. Shekhar and Rakeshji and other people has to be there. Then only we'll be able to get maximum output, and somewhere we'll be able to transfer to the society. So in this context, one of the major thing is what we are doing whenever we go for economic transformation of the region. First, we will identify what are the local resources available and what are the unless until you go for the better use of natural resources that include physical as well as other resources, you won't be able to do anything. So that's what, fortunately, with the help of various central and state governments, we are successful in some of the states. The main idea is that suppose if you take Odisha, I'm talking about, we are working in Balasore. When I've been there, interior area, they say that the family said that we are able to get 3,000 to 5,000 rupees per month, where they have the happiest people. But if you take certain section of South India, even 20,000 is a small amount for these things. So how to empower them? But if you take natural resources, majority of the states, Orissa or Bengal or Northeast, they're having quite amount of natural resources. But how best we can use the natural resources and the natural talent for support to the people. In that way, we are working on with various government, even changing the policies also. I happen to draft the biotechnology and pharma policy of government of Andhra Pradesh and instrumental in changing the policy of pharma in government of India. The only way is that how best it will be suitable for the people as well as the industry. So that's what we are doing it out. If any questions are there, happy to take it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Shankar. Now let us come to our second round. I would like Leena Madam to now talk a little about, she has done a lot of inroads into the Indian philosophy, the Vedic way of doing, and the way how these things can probably induce a better sense of governance, better sense of, the way we look at life because we are all too materialistic. At the same time, we cannot say we all have to be aesthetic. So there has to be a proper balance. And since she has done quite much studies on this, I'm sure we have a lot of things to learn from her, even about Indian culture and Indian heritage. Leena Madam, can you please throw a light on the governance from the point of view of Indian philosophy?
Thank you. What I have to say is that Indian philosophy and the Vedic scriptures are giving a very clear definition between what has to do with the person's personal development and the way that you manage the creation. Because you have the higher scriptures that, as you know, have to do with Upanishads and other scriptures that actually study the relationship of the person with his higher self and how you have the evolution on that. And then you have what we call the lower scriptures, that for some people in the West sounds a little bit weird. It sounded to me when I first came that starts in a priority with grammar. But you see, grammar in Sanskrit and grammar in other languages of the world are very different, because the Sanskrit language gives you an aspect of what we can call also cosmology. So the fact that there you have the principles that are talking about how the world comes up, it gives grammar a very top position in the other, sciences, we can call them like that. But if you look into Vastuveda, which is the architecture in the Vedic scriptures, and you see what is the difference between the way that today urban cities are built and what are the principles that are given in Vastuveda, you will see the great distortion that you have and how this can bring, as we were saying before, a balance and a happiness to people if they can apply these principles. Then, of course, you have Ayurveda, which also gives you a principle of health, that although I do not say that, Western medicine does not offer a lot of benefits to the world, but forgetting to look into the body, into all the levels that the human body has, and forgetting that there are subtler bodies, and forgetting that there are energies that are actually governing the way we live, then the way that you are approaching health is a portion of what you should use when you approach health. I think one of the Indian scholars in Ayurveda, I'm not sure that it was, Deepak Chopra or somebody else, was saying that it is a weird thing to try and see how a living body behaves when you are taught from a corpse. I mean, a corpse can teach you a few things, but you need to understand the whole aspect of how, a person or a human body lives, and take into consideration these things. So I just said those little things as an introduction, because if we take into perspective, first of all, these kind of aspects of the Greek tradition, there's a lot to learn and then apply into governance, as we were saying before. Then, unfortunately, you see that many of the Western leaders are people that are coming from fields that never looked into what are the main points of governing. And as I said before, happiness is a very important aspect of the human body, the human being. So if you don't look in what can make a person happier in a country, how can you govern the country? Now, I think that Prasadji mentioned before the SMEs. SMEs are actually the backbone of an economy. Unless you support SMEs, you cannot have a balanced country and nation by supporting also only big companies, number one. Then you have to have a just taxation system. Taxation system is a very important thing. Unless you study and you implement a just taxation system, and there are things that you can do today, how come you can have a balanced development and a balanced economy and a balanced society? You cannot. So these are things that are important to implement today. And I think that with all this effort that Policy Times and Dr. Secker and the people that are coming in can do, we can promote these things to the world, and we can make a difference. If the people understand, it's something good. If they don't, at least we would have done our part, which is important.
Thank you. Maybe before you fully conclude, maybe one sentence in Sanskrit from you would be very nice for us to hear. Whichever you feel like.
I beg your pardon?
One sentence in Sanskrit from you.
Oh. Om Paramatmane Namah. That's how you start and you end discussions or actions.
Thank you. Thank you. So, because whatever she's talking with full knowledge of Sanskrit, full knowledge of the Vedas, Upanishads, and what is being said to translate into proper way is that it's not a question of materialistic versus non-materialistic. It's a question of be materialistic with proper care being taken. That's why she also says that even when you take medicine, don't say it is allopathy versus Ayurveda. Allopathy has got its own goodness, Ayurveda has got its own goodness. Let us not be taken for a ride either by an allopathy or an Ayurveda. There are people who have had very bad things, even by overdoing Ayurveda. There are people who have had their limbs taken off by yoga, by excessively doing. So everything has got its own limits. So when we say we want to modernize, we want to do this, we want to do that, and people go gaga over it. People want to do artificial intelligence in such a way that there are few conferences which I address in artificial intelligence. The way I heard people saying, this is not there, that is not there, this is not there, everything should be so automatic that I should get my pills in my body, the body should so automatic that I should. I said, then you be in ICU unit, then everything will come to you. You don't need to do anything. So overdoing of artificial intelligence will only make you go in ICU. So, yeah, please.
If I might add something, one very wise Indian man has said once that you cannot use only the material world or only the spiritual world, because these are the two wings that a bird can fly. If you use only the one, you cannot fly. So you have to look into both worlds so that you are in a position to fly.
Very true, very true. So it is not the question of this versus that. It's a question of whether what you require, you be the judge, and you have to be active. People are looking at all technology, everything, thinking that first of all, people think that they have to be lifelong. That means they will never die. So anything is there means, yes, I am going to live forever. And second is, I want everything in the world. I don't want to do anything. And let technology do something, let Ayurveda do something, let something do something. Whichever doesn't do, something is wrong with that. It is not so. Second aspect of today's life, which she's saying, I'm saying in a different style. Say in olden days, it is not that olden days everything was good. Let me also not, there are a lot of things which are not good, which needs to be improved. In olden days, the family means everybody are together. And I feel too many people are together. Today, it's only the couple. Everywhere, the moment a marriage takes place, people want to live separately. Then comes the challenge, which again is a personal governance, since it's the topic on governance. So then they suddenly feel that when they have a kid, they cannot manage. So they call their parents only to manage the kid, not because they are parents. It is because they want some IR to manage the kid. Is it right? Whereas our own system, where maybe our system overdid it. Yes, in olden days, if a family will consist of 25 relatives being together. I'm not talking about 25 children. Children maybe only one or two only, but some which is not required. But when some coherence is there, when we are saying happiness versus our materialistic requirement of GDPs, it's a question of how we assimilate, how we take the best of our systems, past and present. And same or similar way between India versus other countries. We cannot say that Indians were something good and Westerners are bad. Or Western cannot say that there are certain things about that which is good, which we should take. There are certain things which we have, which is good, which we should not leave on. So the governance is there from all aspects of life. It is not only governance means something to do with some file moving in some government department and how the file moves. There is a personal government, there is a city-based governance, there is a village-based governance, there is a overall country-based governance and intra-country-based governance. Good. Prosperity will be better word than just saying our GDP oriented. Prosperity can include happiness and this. So with that in mind, now let me have our second Mr. Ganesh to have few words from the governance angle and how this political systems also can be oriented to governance and how they would like to contribute and how well prepared they are from a typical, I would not like to use the word vote bank politics, but vote bank politics which is generally going for. Mr. Ganesh, please.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So since 75 years of independence, India has traveled a long way. So one of the major aspect of it is, we have a strong constitution, which has been, which was the outcome of several discussions from various quarters of various sections of the society. So that has been our guiding book when it comes to governance. And we also had, so we also have adopted several things based on the requirement of the day. So when it comes to today's world, what is needed is to be grounded to the to be grounded and to listen to the aspirations of the people, because essentially any public policy or for that matter any program or a scheme of government will be successful only when it meets the aspirations of the people. And so I believe that people people are rational thinkers and they know what they want. So sometimes, yes, we tend to be carried away by emotions because we are human beings. But then when it comes to decisions with respect to our lives, so we are the best judges of it. And we have an idea of what we want from the government. So, and like I have discussed in my previous talk, that market is now taking over the economics and social sector. So what happens is several people who are capable of getting the growth fruits of growth from the market-led development are being developed. But then there are several people who are still left out of the growth which is led by the market forces. So, and government has to intervene to provide fruits of development for them. If you see the voting patterns also, what happens is essentially we find out that rural areas the voting percentage is higher than when it comes to urban areas, because more and more rural people are dependent on the various schemes and policies of government. So, and then coming back to our discussion about governance, so it should be evidence-based. So, so initially we had Central Planning Commission, which used to plan from the top, and it used to take a stock of what all resources are available in India from across various states, and what is the resources with respect to, human resources as well as material resources are available in India, and then it used to make schemes and implement them. But now we have a paradigmatic shift. We now have a think tank which formulates strategy documents, and based on these strategy documents, various state governments as well as the central government comes up with some plans and schemes to implement, so that there is an effective use of resources and effective use of financial and material resources. So going forward, it is there is one more huge branch of economics called behavioral economics. So we have to have behavioral insights of public policy while making policies, and also in the governance process of the implementing policies. We also have to have a robust monitoring and evaluation systems put in place, so that whenever there is a pilot policy, we have to implementation of policy on a pilot basis. We need to have to understand. So what is the success of it? And then only we can roll out such kind of policies on a pan India or pan state basis. So there are still certain kind of policies which are being implemented, like you have pointed out, because of so-called vote bank politics. So unfortunately, what happened was, initially, so there were certain sections of society which needed upliftment. So so what happened was, various political parties, they found such sections of societies as they made them their vote banks by providing certain kinds of incentives, certain financial incentives, then material incentives, and so on. And even unfortunately, that trend is continuing even today. But what happens is, what I see is going forward. So we as political consultants, what we try to do is we try to find out what the needs of people are at the grassroots level. So needs of people means with respect to education, health, roads, infrastructure, and women's issues and youth related issues, all these things. And we try to provide all these insights to the politicians and political parties, so that they can make proper plans and implement, announce certain kind of policies which are which match with the realities of the ground level. And also, and we believe that such kind of policies and schemes, they'll have some high success rate, as well as they uplift people from the standard of living of people will be improved, if such kind of a policy regime comes into place. So that's what I think about it.
Thank you. Thank you. Now let me invite Mr. Shankara. And after Mr. Shankara, Mr. Somnath will take it over. Mr. Somnath, please, Shankara, please, your call on governance versus the development.
Yeah. So earlier, when we were talking about the governance and then the development activity, everything used to be on a centralized note. So now a lot of things are being decentralized and various domain experts are being used, especially when you take on development versus industry. As I told in the earlier talk, there used to be so many clearances and the bureaucracy used to dictate the terms which they don't know about the industry, they don't know about the issues of the employees or the industry people, the owners, everything. Now, since once the domain experts have come into picture, because especially if you take our group example, we know what is the need of the industry, we know what is the how to make a policy as if for the mutual convenience for to have a better development activities. So slowly this subject is coming up, but unfortunate thing is that as Ganesh has told, majority of the governments they are going for so many incentives and the subsidies for the whatever the vote bank, whatever you say, and least bothered about the economic empowerment of the people. So rather than giving academic empowerment, and they are going for more of giving it free these things. So wherever we are interacting with the people, at least the politicians, we are saying at least first 2.5, 3 years concentrate on the academic activity. Rest 2 years, rest of the things you can go back on your vote bank activities and other things, because there is a limit for everything. Unless until you perform the economic activity, we improve the economic status of the people. How many days you are going to do this kind of thing with the state exchequer? There is somewhere the system is going to collapse. So, as Madam has rightly said, and one of the key sector is SMEs. Though lot of policies are there and lot of schemes are there, there's practically, somebody working in a remote area, during our interaction, they said that they don't know about policies, forget about this thing. Majority they're not even in the bank accounts also. So we have to develop a governance and a system which go to the bottom of the people. Otherwise, if you see on the MSME, hardly 15 to 20% are able to get the what all benefits we are having, but the rest of the 80%, nothing is there. So slowly it is coming. It is people, at least politicians also have realized. But one more the major problem we are facing is that once the change of God takes place at the ministries or the politicians, the entire system changes. Everybody want to have their own will and wish, and whatever has been done today, they think that this is a trash. I'm the visionary. I have to. Everybody come with their own fancy things. So that thing has to be changed. Especially if you see whatever the little bit the shuffle happened in the couple of months back. Earlier, there are a lot of cleans up plan. We made enormous reports and then started grounding everything. Now the new people have come, everything has changed. They said that that's not the way to do that. I got my own idea. So whether it respect to the change of gods or at the governance with respect to states, everything, that continuity policy has to be there, where it has to be rationalized. Some policies might be there which may not be useful, or for some policies taken only for politics. But when it comes to development activities and other things, there has to be some rationality in continuing of the policies and other things. So that's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sumnit, please, can I take you?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Shekhar. And it was great hearing everybody. Now, I have a couple of comments and I have a small question here and there. And I'll begin by saying that much early into my career, I was into political consulting and PR, and that was part of our thing. And that was like, 14, 15 years back. And in those last 14, 15 years, there is a sea of change and everything. Even 20 years back, 30 years back, 40 years back, political consulting as a profession has been there, but didn't have a very strong and a very formal shape and a face as an industry. And now we are having many political consulting startups which are coming up, and they are much driven by a lot of technology. They have an entire team of data scientists, to people who are working on AI, to people who are collecting feedback. There are apps and there are social media applications which are collecting data, and a lot of things. So I have been slightly out of touch of the industry in the last couple of years or so, not very active. But a lot has happened, especially in the last 2 to 3 years. Especially, there are certain political consulting groups and consultants who are doing really well nationally, as well as repeating successes in certain eastern states. So I would like to invite Ganesh to tell a little bit about something about the operational end of things. How things work nowadays, and you guys use technology, or what are the practices you adopt, which were a far contrast from what used to happen 12, 13, 14 years later, where literally in our team everybody was a fellow. I mean, the word fellow is used in political consulting is basically ek bhagta hua banda who's not got much experience, but who is basically doing all the labor job. But now we have experienced professionals. So Ganesh, could you just throw some light on that a little bit to everybody?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, Sumit. So, like I have mentioned in my talk also earlier, so there is a rise of professionals helping politicians in legislation. So we have several types of fellowships coming up. So there are lots of professionals helping out in governance. So various state governments, and as well as the Niti Aayog has a program for taking help of professionals from various spheres of life. And like you have pointed out, professionalism in the political consulting space is booming up now. So with the advent of technology and with the advent of sophistication, so what happened is nowadays there is a fierce competition in the political domain. So between political parties and between political candidates, there is a very tough, fierce competition. So politics is all about winning. There is no second place in politics, right? You win or you, without any win, will have to wait for 5 more years, 5 more long years when it comes to politics. So what happens is we try to implement certain management principles to traditional political science and this policy to kind of generate insights which can help politicians as well as political parties to take decisions which can benefit them in the elections. So we also use technology. So with the advent of mobile phones as well as cheap data plans, so everybody has a mobile in their hand. So we try to reach on mobiles of majority of voters through whatever media. For example, with short videos, it can be creatives, it can be small texts, it can be memes. So we reach them to kind of set a narrative, set an agenda, and then secondly we also collect data from the ground to gauge the incumbency levels on the current government, both state as well as the central, and also on the sitting MLAs and MPs. And then we also try to understand what is the perception of people with respect to there will be several politicians in a particular assembly or parliamentary constituency. We would try to understand the perception of the people, and also we try to collect information about the development work happened in the constituency in the past 5-6 years, and we try to understand what are the problems existing. So because like I've said, each assembly constituency and each parliamentary constituency has its own set of problems. No two parliamentary constituencies or no two assembly constituencies are similar. Even the same assembly constituency will have different set of problems 5 years down the line. Right. So it is important for a politician and a political party to understand what is happening on the ground, and they have to come up with plans and strategies to fight the elections. So like I also have mentioned, so we have different sets of modules, as you can say, or certain things which we can work out with politicians and political parties. So, for instance, like I mentioned in the previous talk, so political party volunteers, they literally make or break elections. I said this because I would like to explain that, because essentially, a senior political leader from the party, or the official candidate of the party, may reach out to each booth. So, for example, in a typical assembly constituency, on an average, there will be around 200 to 250 booths in India. And in parliamentary constituency, it will be around, somewhere around 1100 to 1700 or 1800. So reaching each and every booth will be difficult. But only political volunteers can have the reach of all these booths. So that's why we try to train them, try to nurture them with respect to the entire election process. We try to train them with respect to communication, as to what to communicate and how to communicate. And also, nowadays, what happened is there is advent of social media. Social media has become powerful in setting narratives and setting agendas. There are a lot of campaigns happening over social media. In fact, more than any campaign happening on ground, today we have several campaigns on social media. So it is essential for leader as well as his cadres and political volunteers to be trained in social media aspect of it. So with the culmination of all this, we are with the communication, technology, data, data analysis and strategy. So we are now designing campaigns and executing them on ground.
Okay, that was indeed very insightful. Now, I am inviting a few comments from Mr. Rakesh, as he is an Indian by heart and by birth, and he is based out of Europe, and he is worked and is still working very closely with the polity and the bureaucracy based out of Europe. And the interesting thing is that he has had a lot of confident exposure to the bureaucracy and polity in India, because he is actively working, and our chamber is actively working to bringing business and investment in India. Even in my state in Bengal, we are doing something. So there is a sharp contrast across continents, as well as work culture, and the kind of processes that would be used to move initiatives in the government of the East in India or of the West in Europe. So could you share some of your views as per contrast, as well as any suggestions what to anybody listening out there, that if this thing was adopted in India, this could have been better, or if this Indianness could be adopted in the West, that could have been better. What are your thoughts?
Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you once again, Sunil. There are many things. Good and bad things are always on each side of the world. So there are many things which can be done from here to there and there to here. From India, of course, the warmth, the values, the culture, many things can be brought into the picture. From here, the more practicality solutions. I mean, there is a very, very small company here which is making the software on an AI basis, which helps to reduce the tax frauds and other things. So automatically, any receipt now, each and every smallest of the venture is connected directly with the tax office. The moment you issue the invoice from your cash machine, the e-receipt of the same copy is being submitted in the tax office at the same time. And with the AI, they basically monitor the things, how the things are going. So at the time, if there are some fluctuations in a big way, based on that, they send the tax people there and do the control of the things. And I think with the proper, we in India, we know that there is only hardly any percentage of the people who are rightly paying the taxes. So if these systems can be improvised there and brought into there, of course, there has to be customized. We cannot just say, take this from here and just dump it there. It doesn't work. It has to be Indianized. It has to be done in a proper way, on the trial and error basis also, because being a bigger country has its own problems also in a bigger way. But yes, if this can be done, things can work out in wonders. There are small and big technologies like automatic fire extinguisher. if the government really wants to cut down the expenses of the losses and even, of course, save the people on the other side, as well as their businesses or the houses or whatever you call it. It's a very simple application. It could be a part of the CSR from the big insurance companies itself, because at the end of the day, they are going to they are going to save a lot from all these things. If there is no fire or the fire is contained at the same time when it starts, the losses for the insurance companies are much, much more less. So automatically they are going to make an advantage out of it. There are many R&D things which are working for the most side, which has their own values. India, we know it's a global supplier for the pharmaceuticals. The cost of the pharmaceutical R&D in India, it's negligible compared to the Western world. Rightly said, yoga, Ayurveda, and other things everything has its own value. Why not? Yes. Now yoga, of course, it's on the center stage of the world, thanks to the effort from, except of the UN also, that it accepted very openly that it should be the part of it. And there's nothing wrong in that. So now the next step, of course, is the Ayurveda and the stress busters and other things which are working on this. And of course, on the other day, as Dr. Shekhar mentioned, that it's more than $80 billion industry, and it will be growing every day. It's not going to stop here. The numbers are going to go much, much more higher with the stress. Incidentally, I was reading a very interesting article, what in the evaluation, how the e-governance and the other things have been done. Look at this way, when we were as a small child, I remember there was only one channel, Doordarshan. Today, a person can decide what they really want to watch. They don't have to sit in the front of TV also. They can watch it anywhere in any place on the mobile. This is the evaluation itself, right? There's a need of of course, the people are looking forward it and got used to it very easily. But when you compare it, it's a huge steps which have been taken from what we were and what we are. There was a very famous picture of the ISRO in 1963 when the part of the rocket was being taken on the bicycle behind it. And today, look at ISRO. They are we can easily say they're the world leaders of their. They have totally the giant step what they have taken. They are sending the highest number of satellites in one aircraft. Whoever would have imagined like this? What you call, if not the evolution, then what it is? Right? The government, what the way of working and everything, right from the rural. If we say that the majority population of India is in rural, yes, it is in rural of India. With the soil test cards and other things, utilizing the modern machineries and everything. What not has been done. Today, a place like Israel or other places which were desert, Middle East and other things, we see there's a greener grass, there are trees growing and other things. All the technologies, all the intelligence and the things which have been used in a proper way to come up with the solutions. And we believe always, where there is a problem, there is always a solution. One of my good friend, he's running a YouTube channel, on a news channel, Lalan Top. His way of saying the things is, explain me in a layman's language. What is, for example, if you want to put it as an AI, what is AI is in the layman's language? So a very simple way of putting it is like, as a human being, we learn the technology, right? And we use it in a certain way. AI is keeping an eye on us and observing us, what we are doing and how we are reacting in those situations. And based on that data, what is being collected, the AI responds or considers that this is how we will respond on this particular situation. Based on that, this is how we will reply. That is how the AI, in a simple way, it works. And this is how it's been done in a very good way, whether we call it as in the medical field, whether we call it in any of the fields. Today, I was listening to one lecture that they said that they have done a small experiment on an AI basis studies in a school, where the AI detected which are the students have the brilliant, of course, they are not being touched, but which are lacking behind. So the AI was pushing them to bring up to the level where they are not left behind at all. This can be, if used in a proper way, the technology has its own advantages, and the things will grow more and more in a right and a better way. Whether we call it a simple thing which started with a very small thing, calling a cab was a problem in certain days. When we came from India to Europe in those early days, we were so happy that you can call a taxi. But now if we compare it, when we used to pick up a phone, dial a number, and we used to say that you are 20th in the line or you are 18th in the row, and you realize that your 20 minutes are gone just hanging on the phone. Just when your number came, when you ordered the cab, again a half an hour more. So before you plan anything, it was 1 hour gone. Today, the things are so simple with app like Ola, Uber, and other things. It just takes hardly few seconds to order a cab, and you know the driver will call you the moment the cab is there. Earlier, there was no such system. You had to go and stand there because the driver was expected at such and such time. So these are all the things. Is it a part of evolution? Of course, it's a part of evolution. Does the government is supporting it? Yes, the private companies have taken lead, but this is the government support that they have allowed it to happen also, right? Doesn't make a difference whether it's this government, that government, which country, what country it is. But whatever makes the life easy for people, it's always welcome. This is my take on this. There are apps I've heard, I mean, not heard, but I know that there are many apps. Since Ganesh was talking about the politics and everything, there are many apps where you can have the total data, biodata of the politician. Based on that, you can decide whom you are going to vote. I mean, yes, we don't remember as a human being, we have a short-term memory. We just see that at this particular time, what that politician has done for us. But it could be a good idea. Why not to go into the total history and read what all has been gone through and what not. Many things are to be looked into. Many things are to be learned. Many things are to be done in the right way. From my side, I think each and every government is doing a good job. There is a will of moving the things ahead. And anything we can do, yes, this is what we at the chambers are for, being a supporting arm or an extended arm, where we would like to also contribute in a smallest way possible. But yes, would like to do the things and put the right effort in the right direction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Rakesh. And it was very insightful and a very positive yet broad perspective from a global level. And so I would hand over charge to Dr. Shekhar now to make his remarks.
Thank you, Sumit. Thanks to Rakesh, thanks to Ganesh, Shankara. Now, we had an elaborate discussion on the same development from a different perspective. A different perspective is more from a governance and little of politics. Because many times, whenever we think of anything, today the media has made everything look negative. Because there's nothing wrong with media. But media people feel that I cannot say sun is rising in the east and sun is setting in the west. That's not news to me. If something negative happens, I should do it. That is what is media. And all of us have to agree to that. But in doing so, today you think of anything, only the negative things comes in front. Like some people rightly said, oh, the politician good. But a common man will say you are wrong. He will never feel politics is good. You say the doctors are good. No, doctors loot us. Because that's what is said by media. You say our own defense people are doing something good in the border. No. Defense is something which is bad. You know, they will just tell 20 names in which some scam has taken place throughout the world. And you name one thing which the media will claim to be good, nothing. You just say even some spiritual figures, oh, somewhere somebody did. But we have to be mature because we should not believe media is bad. We should know that among these 10 things, what is right for us and what is good for us. That's why I'm coming back to the word governance. In governance, we should not feel that there is some idealistic world around which is going to give all. I always joke that even in Ram Raja there was something wrong, even in Ravan Raja there was something wrong, even in Allah Raja there was something wrong, even in Christ Raja there was something wrong. You know, otherwise all these people would not have been put to so much trouble. Can think one thing common with any of the religious things, or every godly person was put into trouble. Okay. So it is a question of how And why these are told to us? These are told to us because so that we become mature, so that we become more, if 10 things happen, just like Google. I say Google is guru. Okay. That means am I not needing a guru? Because Google is also a white paper. Because you ask anything, the way you ask, the reply will come. You say something is bad, it will tell you 20 things something is bad. If you say something is good, it will tell 20 things something is good. Then what does it teach you? It doesn't teach you anything. Okay. So same way, in governance, that's why I also said how a homely governance can take place, how a corporate governance can take place, how a political governance can take place, how a inter-country governance can take place. And in all these things, there is no one single ideal way. We have to ensure that we understand each other first. We have to see our priorities, our strength and weakness. And then we have to see that the best of old is collected. All old is not good again. All that is new is also not good. Like I told, use over artificial intelligence, you will just be an ICU. I'm repeating it just for clarity so that people don't misunderstand what I'm saying. If you overuse it, I'm not talking against artificial. The way many people describe in some of the conferences, it is so embarrassing to hear people say, I don't want driver, I don't want this, I don't want that, I don't want this, I don't want family. Everything will be done by that robo sitting next to me. Then for robo, you are yourself not required. But use artificial intelligence for something that is good for all of us. Use artificial intelligence because it has to automate certain portion which you cannot do, which your mind cannot do. Don't overdo it. Same way, if I say Ayurveda is good and I keep on eating Ayurvedic things, my health will get spoiled. Or I say Ayurveda is useless. Allopathy is only good. You take injection, you take this. We have got a famous cases, I don't want to name in a public platform. They were one of the richest people in the world. And they all died less than 50 or around 50. Why? Because they had too many doctors around them. Some of them had 20 doctors, 24 hours around him. And he died young. So there is, but same person could have been healthy, could have gone out, could have done so many things. Maybe he would have lived longer. At the same time, we will never link permanently. Second aspect which I come whenever I come to some of the conferences on healthcare, people even at 90s and 80s, they want to still live, only think of living. But everybody has to sometime go. So there's no question of, we are not immortal beings. We are all, see, death is one of the most important and most, thing which will 100% happen to all of us. So that is something which people, listen. So with that, let me not take too much time. I feel the time is up to conclude. So let me thank all the speakers and the speakers from various countries. It is nice that we had 2 Europeans and 2 from India, and talking of things from various aspects, right from with practical knowledge, who had practical knowledge in company, corporate affair, government affair, and others in finance, others setting up industry, and an Indian going and successfully doing something there. A person from Greece who knows India more, India and its philosophy, maybe much more than what we all know. And I'm sure somebody like her would give huge knowledge to many of us. At the same time, others also have done excellent, good presentations. And thanking Sumnit, Akram, and Rakesh for this series that they are doing. And let me conclude today's thing, unless anybody else has got anything else to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shekhar. Thank you so much.